let me introduce our next storyteller, Eric Elbot, who walks through life without being harmed. The name of his story is Three Snakes.
Eric, one of your people is walking through the snake-filled river, and she's bleeding. The old villager came over to me. She doesn't have your good snake karma. For months I had walked through India, many adventures, but I'd come to this remote village to find quiet, to do a little introspection, and to lick my wounds. I went down to the riverside, and the she was a 14-year-old French girl who, when she was fording the river, had broke water, and the bleeding was not from the snake bite. She was starting her birth. The villagers came up to me when they saw the situation, and they said, "We cannot get involved in this. If a mother or baby dies, the whole village is in trouble. She's your people, you take care of her." I said, "Focus, Eric, focus." And I asked for one of the huts and a bed, and they gave me the floor of a porch and a straw mat. After 13 hours of breathing and pushing and screaming, her cervix had swollen so close that the head could not come out, and it looked like the situation was getting very dangerous. At the same time, the villagers came up to me and said, "No more screaming. Our animals are getting nervous. Indian women don't scream in birth." Focus, Eric, focus. I asked one of the women if she could heat up coconut oil to body temperature. I poured the coconut oil into the French girl, and almost like a football popping out, the baby just popped out. It was a deep moment of joy for me. I tied off the umbilical cord, and now that everyone was okay, the villagers gave her one of the huts and one of the beds. And I put out word to French people in southern India that one of theirs needed their help, and many came, which allowed me to get ready to go into an even more remote place to do what I felt I needed to do. I was hiking up a stream to the high jungle, and the villager before I left told me, "The jungle is safe now, but when the snakes have babies, it's very dangerous." I promptly ignored that and walked up the stream, found an open space, and began my retreat. Days of meditation and chanting turned into weeks. And monkeys, young monkeys from everywhere, had gathered in a big circle around me, mainly to ridicule me and laugh at me. But then one day, the big male monkeys came, and they have thumbs, and they picked up sticks and started hitting the ground with their sticks. And I knew that I was not safe there to sleep in the open for another night. I picked up my pack and went over to the trail by the stream. But the snakes were hanging from the branches, hissing in my face. The babies had come, and the mothers were fiercely protective. I was trapped between the monkeys and the snakes. What do I do? Focus, Eric, focus. I walked over to the cliff side and looked down. It was a very rocky, crumbly kind of side, but I felt that that was my only option. And so as it was getting dark, my life hung between my fingertips and my toes as I moved very, very slowly down to the bottom of that cliff. Somehow I made it, and I was very grateful. I decided I wasn't finished with working on myself, so I found another mountain that was higher. There was no jungle and no monkeys, and I felt, whoa, here's my spot. And there was a beautiful point where there was a ledge looking over the edge, and there was a red sunset unfolding. And I threw my pack into a little cave and went and dangled my feet over the edge and breathed easy. Finally, I can relax. But out of that little cave came a huge snake, longer than I was tall and bigger around than my legs. The king cobra came out and at arm's length from me, reared up and also watched the sunset. And I was sitting there looking out of the side of my eyes saying, Eric, this is the day you die. Focus really well. And I decided that when the king cobra was ready to strike me, I was better off rolling off the ledge and rolling down the cliff. But then, when the sun went down, so did the king cobra and went back into the cave. I looked up at that red sunset and I said, guy in the sky, thank you. And I left my backpack in the cave and climbed down. When I got down, I said, it's time for me to go home while I'm still alive. The flight from Bombay to Boston was delayed. To kill time, I went to a museum, and somehow in my wandering, I ended up in a room full of stuffed snakes. And uncontrollably, my body just started shaking very hard, very scary, and there was nothing I could do. And the guards had gathered to talk about whether to get an ambulance for me. And I told them, wait. I just signaled them. And finally, after about almost an hour, my body stopped shaking. And I breathed easily, and my mind felt clearer than my mind had ever felt. It felt piercingly clear, almost like I was a newborn baby. To celebrate that, I went to a barber and had my long hair shaved off and my beard shaved off. And I really looked like a bald baby then. I looked like the French girl's baby. And over the years, to hold on a little bit of that moment of enlightenment for me, I've maintained that little bald head. Thank you, snakes. Thank you, monkeys. Thank you, French girl, for my birth and death and rebirth. And thank you for sharing it with me one more time.